Hello and welcome to Wineskins, a program that features the lives of the saints and reflections on the Sunday readings, along with information on a variety of topics and issues from a Catholic perspective. I'm Father Jim Korda. Our program is brought to you through the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. Our interview segment today will feature Kitty Sherer and Jim Knight. We will talk about human trafficking. We will also get a glimpse into the life and times of St. Francis Xavier Cabrini, along with reflections on the readings for this 32nd Sunday in Ordinary Time. That and more on Wineskins. To tell us more about family life and marriage in the Diocese of Youngstown is Dave Schmidt.
A number of years ago, when I was a director of religious education at a parish, I remember talking to a friend who had recently suffered a miscarriage. I remember her telling me, "Dave, I don't know how to mourn the loss of my baby. My Catholic faith tells me that my baby was a human person from the moment of conception, but the Church doesn't seem to have rituals and support in place to help me deal with this." Although that conversation took place about 25 years ago, her words stuck with me, because she was right. The Church needs to do a better job assisting parishioners who suffer the loss of a child through miscarriage or stillbirth. Sometimes the terms miscarriage and stillbirth get used interchangeably. Technically, a miscarriage is a pregnancy loss that occurs before 20 weeks of gestation, whereas a stillbirth describes a baby born dead after 20 weeks of gestation. Unfortunately, the number of babies lost to miscarriage and stillbirth is extremely high. According to Elizabeth Ministry International, approximately 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in miscarriage. In the United States, it is estimated that over 1 million babies are lost to miscarriage or stillbirth each year. That means there are millions of people out there who experience the deep pain and grief that comes with miscarriage or stillbirth. People who suffer a miscarriage often feel isolated in their grief. Many in our society act as if not talking about the baby and removing all evidence of the child's existence will help the parents forget their loss. But as Jeannie and Bruce Henneman point out, this mindset fails to honor the powerful life and death experience that has already left an impression in the parents' hearts, never to be forgotten. Death ends the life, but not the relationship. Grief can be delayed, but not denied. Thus, in the Church, we need to be more proactive in helping parents of miscarried or stillborn children to process their grief and ritualize their loss. Ministering to those suffering the loss of a child from miscarriage or stillbirth isn't just the concern of our priests, who are already too few in number, but it should be the concern of all of us who claim the title of Catholic Christian and who recognize the sanctity of human life from conception until natural death. When you encounter someone who has lost a child to miscarriage, Jeannie and Bruce Henneman from Elizabeth Ministry International recommend the following. First, be present to the bereaved parents. Know that it is simply enough to just be with the grieving person. Don't hesitate to enter into the pain of death, and don't try to take it away. Give them permission to cry, because their loss is real. Don't worry about what you should say. Feeling at a loss for words in this situation is normal. It may feel awkward, but shared silence is comforting. Be a good listener. Use eye contact and open body language to signal a willingness to hear whatever they want to share. Gently ask questions, but do not pry. If the parents have named the baby, use the name. This validates the reality of the child's unique existence. Remember, talking about the baby will not add to their pain, but allows it to be expressed. In contrast, avoidance does not take away the suffering, it causes more trauma. Let them tell and retell their story. Acknowledge the expected due date. It will almost certainly be a time of renewed grief, and your remembrance will be appreciated. Mark the date of the death on your calendar, and be sure to contact the family on the anniversary. Likewise, be sure to acknowledge the loss on days like Mother's Day or Father's Day, and remember them on holidays such as Christmas and Easter. Consider giving the parents a simple gift in remembrance of their child, which may become a cherished heirloom for them. It may be a religious medal or figurine, a CD of special music, a prayer book, or literature that assists them in their grief. Or make a donation in their child's memory. Invite them to a shared time of prayer, such as visiting the Blessed Sacrament together, or praying the Divine Mercy Chaplet or Rosary together. Praying to Mary, the Mother of Jesus, may be particularly helpful since she understands the pain of losing a child. Lastly, remember that by reaching out to someone mourning the loss of a miscarried or stillborn child, you don't have to have all the answers, and you don't have to fix things for them. Just allow yourself to be an instrument of God and allow God to bring about the healing in the way that they most need it. For Wineskins, this is Dave Schmidt.
St. Francis Xavier Cabrini was the first naturalized citizen to be canonized in the Roman Catholic Church. To tell us more is Pam Pasquale. She is from St. Charles Church in Boardman.
St. Francis Xavier Cabrini is the first citizen of the United States to be canonized a saint. The process began only 11 years after her death, and she was canonized on June 7, 1946. Born prematurely in Lombardy, Italy, she was baptized Francesca, and from the age of reason, fervently desired to be a missionary. After applying to enter religious life in several communities and always being turned down because of her frail health, she was advised by her bishop to start a religious community herself. As a result, she founded the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart and received approval in 1889 by Pope Leo XIII to go to the United States, where there were many Italian immigrants. Within a few months after the arrival of the first group of sisters, Mother Cabrini had already opened an orphanage and a school. She became a naturalized citizen in 1909, and during the remainder of her life, she founded a total of 67 charitable institutions and houses of her congregation. During her lifetime, she obtained a number of special favors through her prayers. She died in Chicago just before Christmas in 1917. Her devotion to the poor, the underprivileged, and the sick should prompt many individual Catholics to become more active in works of charity for the needy. Moreover, Mother Cabrini can help us see Christ in all the men and women we meet. For Wineskins, I'm Pam Pasquale.
We're talking about human trafficking, and joining me again is Kitty Sherer and Jim Knight. Before we took a break, we were talking about the global issue. I'm sure you have some national statistics that are probably equally as staggering. Kitty, can you share those with us?
Well, unfortunately, across the nation, there is no official estimate of the number of victims, but a national anti-human trafficking group, which is called Polaris, has been very active over the last 10 years, and they have estimated that we have hundreds of thousands of victims just in the United States alone. Polaris is a group that has a national hotline, and they get calls in from victims or people that are reporting abuse and stuff. And they've had over 32,000 cases reported over the last 8 years. So they draw some conclusions as far as like the total numbers out there and stuff. So you're talking about hundreds of thousands. They've identified 25 different types of trafficking. So we lump it like into labor and sex trafficking, but they've actually split it down into 25 types because each type has its own business organization plan. So they have different types of recruiting, they have different people that they would recruit, they have different ways of hiding it. So it runs everything from the escort services to agriculture to the restaurant industry to manufacturing. So they've had 32,000 cases just that they've investigated.
Jim, tell us about what's going on locally.
Well, if people want to find out more, they should go to the Ohio Attorney General's webpage at ohioattorneygeneral.gov and search for human trafficking. Governor John Kasich also has a human trafficking task force, but they release annual reports each year, and these reports come in from law enforcement agencies, social service-based agencies, and even other human trafficking coalitions and task force. There's several throughout the state, like PAFs. And one of the statistics that came in from the Attorney General's office in the past year was 100 law enforcement agencies across the state reported dealing with, in total, from what was reported, 151 cases that had come through. And that's just law enforcement. Social service agencies or even hospitals, they could also report some different numbers as well. So even in the state, just like Kitty was saying, there's not an official one-stop number that's going to take place, but these are also just the reported cases. So we know that more is out there. And in Stark County, where we are based out of, we have a human trafficking task force, which is made up with members from PAFs, but also from law enforcement and other social service-based agencies. And for 2016, they identified 7 victims in our county. And I think 4 were based in sex trafficking underage and 3 for labor trafficking. We may see that number grow as the years progress, not necessarily because the problem's getting worse, but because we're becoming more aware.
Right. Let's talk about the victims now, because sometimes it's important for us, or all the time I believe it's important for us to put a face to who are the people that are being trafficked. Oftentimes when we hear that, we might think of just women or just young children, but it runs the gamut, I would imagine. Right. Put a face on the victim for us.
Like we said, it cuts across all socioeconomic strata. So we have all age groups, all income levels. Here in the United States, for labor trafficking, I guess Jim will probably address the sex trafficking aspects here, but for labor trafficking, in the last 10 years, there were 5,400 cases that were documented in the United States. I don't know, in our local news, Northeast Ohio news, I don't know, a couple years ago, there were a series of strip clubs in the Youngstown area, and they found that a lot of those victims that worked there were being held there against their will, and they're not allowed out. So it's one of those things that people are isolated or in poverty and stuff, and their immigration status might be a little uncertain. And so you get a lot of people that we call them the ones that are more liable to be recruited.
I see.
More susceptible to it, yes. Anybody in a poverty situation that's trying to get out of their situation is definitely it. And those people that are coming from a foreign country that don't speak the language, they are not familiar with our culture, they might not trust law enforcement because the country they come from, you don't do that. And so there are a lot of things that set them up to be victims in the first place. And a lot of times they're brought here just with out and out lies of coming to find a better life, making money like in the restaurant business, and then they're put in what we call debt bondage. They found that the average cost for a person being brought from overseas and told that they need to pay back over $6,000 because somebody has found them this great job to improve their life, and then they make very little, or sometimes they make nothing, so they can't ever save up to get out of bondage. They don't understand how they have rights, so they don't seek out help. So that kind of makes it a very hidden crime and one that's very hard for them to escape from. So, and I know that, for the sex trafficking, it's very similar to that.
Yeah, I think very similar, because with what Kitty was saying, a lot of what the trafficker is going to be playing on is that victim's vulnerability. As we had mentioned, with trafficking, really anybody runs across the spectrum of who can be a victim, but a lot of times, especially as it's related to sex-related human trafficking, the victim can be about ages like 12 to 14, because at this point, they're obviously very young, very vulnerable. They may not know their rights, they may not know just really much about life in general, or know when they could be being manipulated, and the trafficker will prey on that.
For more information on that topic and other related issues, and to listen to Wineskins, visit the website of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown at www.doy.org. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
What have you done for your marriage today?
I gave my wife a hug this morning. I told her I love her.
I did her hair this morning. I think it looks pretty good.
I cooked my husband's favorite breakfast.
I bought her an orchid.
What have I done for my marriage today? I sent my husband a love email.
I read the newspaper to my wife, and it cracked her up. But she's still laughing.
What have you done for your marriage today? Make a change for the better. Need help? Go to foryourmarriage.org, a message from the Catholic Church.
Every day, in every county of the Diocese of Youngstown, people are searching for help. The hungry are looking for food. The homeless are looking for shelter. Those who are ill are looking for help with prescription medication. And the vulnerable in every corner of our diocese are searching for care and compassion. And every day, that search leads to Catholic Charities. Let's take a look at how Catholic Charities is serving the needy in your county.
Catholic Charities Regional Agency's primary mission is to provide service to people in need through various programs and projects in our service area. In Columbiana County, we have offices in Lisbon and East Liverpool, as well as the domestic violence shelter Christina House in Lisbon, serving the entire county. Christina House offers residential shelter in a secure, undisclosed location to women and children for up to 30 days to offer safety and protection while fleeing an unsafe situation. Similar services and protection is available to men who may need protection as well. Case management and supportive services are offered to help the clients to relocate and change their situation. Assistance with the legal processes for protection orders and court from a victim's advocate are also a part of our services in Columbiana County. Access to lawyers through a collaboration with Community Legal Aid is present in the Lisbon office. In East Liverpool, the Senior Center provides home-delivered hot meals and on-site lunches Monday through Friday. Help with basic needs and financial assistance based on eligibility is available in both the Lisbon and East Liverpool offices. Services to seniors in the community who are homebound is also offered under the Senior Support Program through a contract with the Area Agency on Aging programs.
As Jesus reminds us in the Gospel, the poor you will always have with you. This statement should not discourage us, but rather should challenge us to open our hearts in loving service to our brothers and sisters in need. I want to thank you for your generous support of the 2017 Annual Bishop's Appeal for Catholic Charities and the Church. Your loving commitment to the many programs which serve the poor throughout our diocese is changing lives one family at a time. Thank you, and God bless you.
Christopher Minutes, thoughts on making every day count. Here's Monsignor Jim Lisanti.
Hello, friends. Here's a thought just for today. Joanne Haverland got a job as a secretary at a local private college, but within a week of starting, her father was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Joanne recalls, "I was so emotionally distraught that I couldn't concentrate on what I needed to learn or do at my new job. It was all I could do to get through each day without making too many mistakes." One day, a coworker noticed Joanne's anguish and invited her to go for a walk. As they spent time together, says Joanne, "I choked out my feelings of inadequacy, frustration, and pent-up pain. We walked for many blocks, and an hour later, when we returned to the office, I was drained but renewed." My friends, if you see a friend or coworker having a tough time, offer to take a walk and have a talk. Your compassionate gesture could have a profound effect.
Many sisters, brothers, and religious order priests served for little pay, and now their communities lack retirement funds.
I spent 34 years as a teacher. I just loved interacting with the students.
Gifts to the Retirement Fund for Religious help provide for medications, nursing care, and more. An annual collection is held in parishes across the nation.
I always remember you in my prayers.
Please give to those who have given a lifetime. Visit retiredreligious.org.
Church World Service believes that being self-reliant is a joy everyone should share. So around the block or around the world, share the joy.
Our song today is from the CD entitled Fight the Fight. It is by Chris Muglia.
There was a man with a heartache.
He had a heart made of stone. For years he was so very angry. He was so very alone. One day his life changed in an instant, when he felt the power of faith. I know a man who is free now. I know a man who believes anything is possible. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. There was a lady with heartache. She had a heart that was stained. She lived in her own isolation. She was so very ashamed. One day she found peace through another, who reached out a helping hand. I know a lady who's free now, now that she understands. Anything is possible. Anything is to show someone a loving hand, would you rise to the occasion when you're called? Will you be the doorway that could lead them to their faith, or will you be more like a brick wall? Anything is possible.
Our scripture reflections for this 32nd Sunday in Ordinary Time will be by Father Larry Frient. He is canonical pastor of Holy Rosary Church in Lowville and pastor of St. Paul the Apostle Church in New Middletown.
One thing that we cannot avoid is planning ahead for things. It's often difficult. Sometimes it seems impossible because the unexpected creeps into our lives. Still, we have to try to plan ahead. All of us could make a list of things we have to prepare for. Don't look now, but Christmas is coming up. We may not like it, but we must get ready for winter. Plus all the usual things that we have to plan. Our budgets, our shopping sprees, and a host of other things. No matter who we are or what we do, we have to make plans. We have to be prepared. And it's precisely at the times we fail to plan ahead or be prepared that we let others down or we let ourselves down. I'm sure that all of us could think about times when we failed to be as prepared as we should have been, or the times when somebody caused our lives to be complicated due to their lack of preparation. Jesus gives us a healthy lesson in today's gospel. It's all about being prepared, all about planning ahead. We heard the story of the 10 bridesmaids. 5 of them were sensible. They were prepared for their master's return. They had plenty of oil on hand, and we see that this led to good things for them. And then 5 of them were foolish, not prepared at all. They did not bring enough oil, and they were left out when the true celebration came about. This story really presents each of us with the question, do I fit into God's plan, or better yet, does God fit into my plans? Ultimately, if we are planning on being with God for all eternity, then our lives must be more than just trying to fit God in here and there. He's got to be a constant part of our plans. After all, we are constantly a part of God's plans. He doesn't mean to wear our religion and God on our sleeves, but he does mean that we have to be prepared. And more often than not, the reality goes like this. God is no further than the main concerns we have. We have to be prepared to meet him in the day-to-day struggles and the joys of our lives. We can't plan an eternity with God without planning to keep our eyes open to his presence here and now. Because if we're not alert, we'll miss out. For Wineskins, this is Father Larry Frient.
When God comes to take us into his eternal kingdom, will we be prepared to receive him? To be wise is to be ready for a future life with the Lord. What are you pursuing in your life? Is it truly the wisdom of God? Wineskins is made possible by the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. Wineskins is produced by CTNY, the Catholic Telecommunications Network of Youngstown. I'm Father Jim Korda, thanking you for being with us. Have a blessed Sunday, and may God be with you.